All right. Well, thank you for being here. We are so excited to share a little bit about our annual performance report. And just as a reminder, our annual performance report is a snapshot of our district's academic performance. It is also a key measure that is used by the state to evaluate our progress. And so we have had a nice increase in our APR, and we want to celebrate that today. So without further ado, I will hand that over to Stacia to elaborate more on our APR.
Today is a celebration day, and so I want to thank all the teachers and building leaders and district leaderships that have worked very hard for this. Over the past 3 years, the St. Joseph School District has not only worked to improve, but we have moved forward with purpose. And this purpose means that we have set a focus on Tier 1 instruction. That MSEP 6 annual performance report tells that story of growth, resilience, and rising expectations for all scholars in our community. In 2023, the district earned 63.2% of the total possible APR points. In 2024, we rose to 67.5%. This year, 2025, we are sitting at 74.7%. This is not a small step. This is significant, and it's sustained progress that reflects both strong student performance, but also continuous improvement in our classrooms. I'm just going to highlight some of the pieces from the APR. So APR does measure achievement, growth, readiness, continuous improvement practices, and you'll see that reflected in the report. The most substantial growth occurred last year with an 8.9% increase in performance. And what that means is on our summative assessments. We contribute that a lot to the focus on quality Tier 1 instruction, PLCs, our professional learning communities, and evidence-based instructional resources. I want to share that all secondary schools in the St. Joseph School District showed improvement in their 2025 MSEP 6 annual performance scores. At the elementary level for the St. Joseph School District, we showed impressive growth. And so you'll see several schools that posted outstanding outcomes, including Eugene Field that had 100%, Ellison set at 90.3%, Pershing at 86.3%, Oak Grove 77.7%, Edison 76%, Hyde 72.8%, and Lindbergh at 72.8%. Coleman also showed significant growth with 72.2% in Carden Park and Pickett. This balanced growth reflects a maturing system, one that first established strong foundational practices, and now we're seeing those results translate into measurable student achievement. We are moving in the right direction, but our work isn't done. We are very focused on literacy, and literacy is the anchor, and that's something that we continue to provide supports around. This year, we added the evidence-based instructional material, the Benchmark Advance, across all K-6 classrooms. This progress isn't accidental, it's intentional, and it comes from a belief that everything is developed in partnership, and it comes from a community that will stand behind its schools. So today we are celebrating, and tomorrow and the rest of this day we'll continue the work.
And I want to talk just a little bit about our CSIP. That is our Continuous School Improvement Plan. So we just went through a cycle of community engagement and feedback to make sure our stakeholders' voice was included in that. You will see a very intentional focus on academics. So we do have 5 priorities that the board has just approved for us to focus on, but academics is a heavy hitter on that, as well as school finance. So I want to praise our teachers. One thing that we don't talk a lot about is we look at this data and we analyze it by building, we analyze it by teacher. It's a reflection tool for us to be able to see where our strengths lie, where we have opportunities for growth, and then provide that feedback to our teachers and our principals. But we are very proud of our staff and the progress we have made academically. And with that, we will open it up to questions.
As you just kind of explained, so we look at here, this top thing, performance, points earned, percentage points earned, continuous, but could you explain those, what, first performance and then continuous improvement?
Absolutely. So our performance really centers on state assessment data. And so what you'll see is two different pieces there and the breakdown underneath there. You will see something called status, which means are students achieving at high levels? And then you will see growth. And what that growth means is are students progressing? Are they growing in the standards throughout our system? And so you do get points for status. And you'll see that I believe in that report we're approaching there, but for our growth we're on target.
And I'll add a little bit there. So the performance points are 70% of our annual performance report. The continuous improvement, which is on the back, that is 30%. So if you're looking also, and Stacia spoke about the academic piece as far as how students perform on tests and their growth, but if you look at the bottom row there, it also includes graduation rate. That's something we have made serious gains over the past few years. We actually landed there at 91.9%, which gets us 15 points on our annual performance report. Had we gotten to 92% graduation rate, we would have had an extra 5 points. So we just barely missed that mark there, but definitely an opportunity for growth next year with graduation rate. There's also a piece on graduation follow-up. So when our seniors leave us, we still have to track how they are doing after they graduate. So are they employed and making minimum wage? Are they in the military? Are they going to college? So we are scored on how our seniors perform even after graduation day. And then if you look at the back, that's the 30% of continuous improvement points. And so some of those, we have to do a climate and culture survey, and we have to do what's called an ICAP. It's an individual career and academic plan, so that starts in 8th grade. Attendance is part of that. So that all of this here on the back is that 30% of the points. The majority of our annual performance report is academics, how students perform on our state assessments. But there are pieces in here, kindergarten entry assessment that we do also, and those are included in the points.
So the performance are like the scores that they
Yes.
have.
Correct.
And then continuous improvements, whether they're improving, whether it's going up or getting better, is that it, or?
It's really just two categories
Okay.
there. It's all continuous improvement, but they label them performance and continuous improvement. So for example, attendance, to me, that's also a measure of
They're
how they're
separate.
performing. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's just two
Think of them
separate
as
categories.
Separate, not as
Yes, two separate categories of points there.
I know in the past, we actually have done pretty well in the math and science, and you mentioned literacy.
Yes.
Is that still, English still kind of a problem area?
It's an opportunity for growth for us, absolutely it is. And so we did grow in our state assessment scores, not the growth that we had hoped to see. The state has really rallied around a state initiative called LETTERS, and that's professional learning for our teachers on how students learn to read. And so we have provided that professional learning support for our teachers. What we realized is that we wanted to ensure that all students are being taught on grade level. What we had done was set up a system where it became adaptive, very personalized. We want to ensure that through the mini lesson or the beginning part of the explicit instruction from teachers, it's presented on grade level. And so that core resource will allow us to ensure that all students, regardless of the site, are presented learning on grade level.
Is that still, there's still an emphasis though, literacy in English?
Very much
I
so.
know everything is, but that was one that,
Literacy is our anchor. It impacts and it's interdependent on so many other content areas, yes.
how are we doing on attendance?
Great question. Overall, attendance right now as a district looks about 84%. We really, at this time last year, it was about the same. We're really drilling down, like Dr. McGinnis shared, school by school to see what supports those schools need to really provide supports around chronic absenteeism. And so as a district right now, we're sitting at about 84%.
What impact has the prosecutor's emphasis on truancy had?
We've had that partnership for about 3 years now. I would tell you it's been a slow and steady increase in our attendance. We would hope to have a little bit more of an impact with our families and the data from our attendance. But we are working hand in hand with them. Anytime a student falls below 90% attendance, it goes on a watch list. And so we have a person that is tracking those, and also in partnership with Buchanan County Prosecuting Attorney's Office and the Juvenile Office.
What do you think are the biggest highlights? I mean, I know you touched on it. What are the biggest highlights, but what are the things when you look at this you really want to start working, really focus on to work?
You know, we have set up internal progress monitoring, so we changed our assessment practices with the district this year. We are leading with a different platform, Mastery Connect, in which the test itself is written on grade level. In last year's work with assessment in an internal progress system, it was adaptive, and so it depended upon how the student did in the questions that they got. Now with our assessment practices, what we're looking at is, no, we want to provide equity. We want students to be exposed to the questions that they will face on those state achievement tests. And so really rallying around what those questions look like for our teachers and working on rigor and depth of knowledge, like ensuring that we are teaching at high levels of questioning, pushing our questioning to get kids to think more critically. And so those are some opportunities for growth for us in our Tier 1 practices. We've got the system down. We provided the framework and the structure for the number of literacy minutes, the number of math minutes, the resource that the teachers are using. But it's the practices, it's the instructional practices that we're really honing in on now.
I'm going to hit the highlights. She's going to let me.
Yes.
So for me, it's the overall annual performance rate. We haven't been above 70% since COVID. And so 70% is kind of that mark for accreditation. We've gone through this MSIP 6 cycle, and it's a little complex, but we've heard this rumor in our community, we're going to be at jeopardy of accreditation. You know, we could be losing accreditation, and that's just simply not true. And now we have the data to back. We are above the 70% mark, and so that to me is a huge celebration for our district and our community, because it shows we are making progress. We're getting back to a state of normal. We do have that area of attendance that I would still like us to improve upon. Being so close to that graduation rate, we've got to get that to at least 92%. So we do have those areas, but to be above that 70% mark is huge. We have got to celebrate that.
Superintendent McGinnis, you talked, I was going to ask you about COVID. I mean, we've talked, it seems like COVID was quite a while ago, but it's not. Are we seeing emerging from the pandemic? Are we still seeing effects of the pandemic?
I think we didn't anticipate the recovery time well. I had a principal, I was at Lafayette High School during that time, and an assistant principal said, it takes about 4 years to recover from a pandemic. And I think he was right. It has taken a very long time to get rid of some bad habits we created during COVID. Everything was shut down, so we relied heavily on devices and education through different platforms, virtually, and that just wasn't best for most of our kids. Some students can thrive in that environment, but the majority of them had a difficult time learning with that software platform without the value of a high quality educator right in front of them. And so breaking some of those bad habits has been a challenge for us as a district. Not like any other districts are not experiencing that as well, but I think just getting back into that sense of coming to school every day, having that high quality teacher in front of you, Tier 1 instructional practices in the classroom that I know Stacia could talk all day about. It's taken a long time. So to me, this 74.7% is a sign that we are finally overcoming that barrier that we all had during COVID.
The only other thing I wanted to add is, I know there have been some complaints just about DESI's performance gone. They changed it, how the changes affect. Are you satisfied that the state is actually doing a good job of measuring education? Or are there things that bother you a little bit about their performance? Or are you going to be like a coach and not talk about the officiating?
No, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. As a runner, when I run a mile or I run a race, it's meaningful when you know your time at the end of that race, right? So that's my biggest hang up with the timeliness of getting our data, and also for a student, because if it's not immediate, then it starts to lose its value. And so to make that number, that data point relevant for a student, for our family, for us as a district, because this is from May 2025 performance, and we're just now talking about it in November. And so the timeliness is difficult for us. It's challenging, and not something that we have control over, but I think it would be very helpful if we had those results quicker so that we could provide that feedback and adjust as a district if we need to.
So it's not really what they're evaluating, it's the timing? Or
The timing.
You'd rather get it quicker?
Yes.
There's too much lag.
Right now, Mary, right now.
Too much lag.
Yeah. Now, I will say the growth part of our academic performance, so measuring growth in some of these content areas, it's a very complex formula that's used, and so it's difficult for us to understand. It's difficult for even the state to understand and explain to us, and so that's something else that is very similar with other districts, is trying to understand that growth model that's used by the state. But overall, I would say the timeliness of getting our data back.
Okay, Raji, do you have any questions for the two of them?
Yes.
I called you Barry, I meant to call you Brent.
It's all right.
You guys look alike.
I was wondering, what are some of the factors would you say that contributed to this improvement?
Great question. I would say professional learning for our teachers and the PLC. And when we talk about that is the professional learning communities. Teachers working together and leading from results, looking at student work and driving and reteaching and going back into the classroom to ensure that there's actually the learning. We can teach it, right? But we have to make sure students learn it.
Okay. Would you say that SJSD provided any additional professional development or classroom supports to the educators to make this improvement, happen?
Yeah, absolutely we did. Content knowledge, we used a lot of model classrooms. So we have established academic lab classrooms where we bring our teachers in to ensure best practices and center our work around that. We also have a system of instructional coaching. Our instructional coaches are magnificent in the work that they lead in teaching and modeling and leading coaching conversations with our teachers to ensure we're leading the right work in our classrooms. Those are two big key pieces, besides the work with our building leaderships carrying out the professional learning communities themselves.
Okay. What would you say some of the steps that have been taken to, ensure that this improvement continues for everybody and not just some selective students who are already academically maybe performing well, and it just goes for everybody?
Yeah, Dr. Schulz would be a great person. Michelle, you have anything to add with that?
Yes, our teachers are also always in the same professional development. And so one of the things that you will see in the data is that the student group, which includes free and reduced lunch, special education, and English language learners, they all showed growth in ELA, math, science, and social studies. In fact, they were on track. So that right there shows the importance that we are giving to making sure that all students are learning, not just some students.
Okay. those are all the questions I have.
Thank you. Brent, anything else?
That's it, thanks.
Okay. Thank you.